Welcome everyone to the Barrhead and District Forum interviews for the 2021 municipal elections. The Barrhead Chamber of Commerce, Barrhead Leader, and Barrhead Public Library thanks you for your time today. Let us welcome Gary Frederickson, candidate for the Pembina Hills School Trustee position in Ward 3 for the town of Barrhead. Before we get started, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little about why you're seeking election?
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank the Barrhead Public Library for providing this forum. I think it's important. It's an alternative, obviously, to an open kind of meeting, but in this new COVID reality, it's better than nothing for sure. My name is Gary Frederickson. I'd like to direct you to my website, Gary for Kids, so that's GaryForKids.ca. There's a lot of information on there about me. This is my 4th year in Barrhead. I moved here with my family when they closed the regional office for ADLC in Lethbridge. I'm retired now, but I'd worked for Pembina Hills for 15 years. I'm still coaching, coached for over 50 years. I'm coaching this year in Barrhead Comp again, so this will be the 3rd year doing girls basketball. We are committed to this community. My wife and I, we bought a house here, we bought a vehicle here, we shop here, our doctor's here. And I have we have 12 granddaughters, or 12 grandchildren, 10 granddaughters, but 2 of them live here in Barrhead. One's in grade 2 and one's just coming 3 years old. So I'm very, very interested in education in Barrhead, passionate about it, if you like. And we have a vested interest in it. And we have a vested interest in this community. So if you go to my website, or if you look at the mail out that's coming out this week, all kinds of information about me in there, contact information. In fact, I had a call last night. So I'm very approachable, very open. Don't believe in hidden agendas. You ask me a question, I'll try to give you an honest answer to it.
At the start of the school year, Pembina Hills Board decided not to require masks in schools. Masking was then imposed by the province a week later. Were you in favor of the Pembina Hills decision, yes or no, and why or why not?
I can't think of a time when I've experienced a more emotionally charged question than masking, particularly in this environment where people are frustrated and angry, and I get that. But the responsibility of the board is to keep our students safe. What's our options? Masks, vaccines, some form of isolation. That's about it. Since vaccinating students is still it's a questionable option, we did ask our doctor in town here if it was up to him, would he vaccinate his children? And he said, no, there's not enough data yet. So I'm going to take vaccination of students off the table. Individual choice, parents want to do it, that's totally fine. But I think that puts more pressure on us to try to look at the other options that we have to keep our students safe, because I don't accept doing nothing as an option. We want students in school, they belong in school. That limits distancing choices. Some of the classes are 40 students, and you can't hire twice as many teachers and have 2 shifts at the school. So what's a reasonable, what's a fair choice? So I think the decision, I have a lot of problems with it. That's the first one. The second is, I'm an old science teacher. I believe in data-driven decisions. You're entitled to your own opinions for sure, but you're not entitled to your own facts. So assuming that we can't ignore and do nothing, and I'm going to make that assumption because I do believe in the data that's out there. I mean, it's pretty uniform right across the country and right across the world. If it's a conspiracy to put out false data, then it's probably the biggest conspiracy I've ever seen. So the data is telling us something. We can't ignore it. I think another problem with the decision was, from what I read anyways, and I wasn't at the table, that basically the board surrendered its decision-making power to the provincial government. Whatever the provincial government did, they were fine with that. They didn't want to take any leadership on their own. Our new superintendent comes from Manitoba. I come from Saskatchewan. In Manitoba, the government decided they were going to get rid of school boards and go from however many school boards there were to one. And in Saskatchewan, they went from 82 to 18. That took a lot of local power away, a lot of local voice away. But if all you're going to do is what the provincial government does, then really what is the purpose of the school board locally? And I believe there is a huge purpose to the local school board. I also think that we missed a real teachable moment. Maybe not forever, we can go back to it, but freedom comes with responsibility and accountability. So I wear a mask to protect myself and others. So if you choose not to protect yourself, what are you going to do to protect others? Are you going to come every week with, proof of a test that you don't have COVID? I mean, this is our future reality. We're going to have to look at collaborative issues or solutions to these issues for a long time in the future. And I think there needs to be a lot more community involvement in the decision-making process. When I was in Wolseley, small town in Saskatchewan, comparable to Barrhead for sure, we were just about going to be closed. We were one of the worst schools in the province. And with a great principal and support of the staff, first thing we did was attack this discipline policy because the discipline was a gong show. And the way we did that was we involved the community. We brought in students, parents, community leaders. In this case, I would definitely involve the local medical profession. And we tried to come up with a solution that everybody could buy into. Compromise was necessary for sure. But I think the problem that I've seen so far is that it's been top-down decision-making, yes or no, and that's just no way to handle a complex issue like this.
Pembina Hills continues to face many chances and changes, including the loss of ADLC, rapid growth in some schools due to relaxed boundaries and declining enrollment in others, supports for homeschoolers, Vista Virtual, etc. What do you see as the top 3 priorities the school division needs to focus on in the next 4 years?
Some of the challenges ahead, we don't even know yet, but the 3 that I can address right now that are on the table, one is the importance of Vista Virtual. Vista Virtual is a fantastic resource. I don't know how many people even know what it is, but it's an online school that is part of Pembina Hills. It allows us to, if handled properly, create a surplus. Last year, that surplus, because of COVID, was millions of dollars that went back into the Pembina Hills school system to support all the other programs. My problem is that none of that money was spent on course design. One of the strengths of ADLC over the years was we developed some great courses, and lots of them, like well over 200 in the time that I was there. With new curriculum coming out, just the natural way that anything wears out, courses need to be refurbished. We have the manpower. Some of it is sitting here, unemployed because of the ADLC loss. But it's a provincial organization, this Vista Virtual, and we didn't do a very good job of handling ADLC in a provincial way. So I want to see Vista Virtual thrive going forward. I want to see it as an engine for employment for teachers in this division. And I also want to see it as a way for us to create surplus to continue to help subsidize things like busing costs and school fees and you name it. The second thing I think we need to address in an aggressive way is that we have a new type of classroom needed. We're going to have students that come and go. They test for positive for COVID, or they have the flu or whatever. We need to have blended classrooms. We need to have classrooms where if students are away for a day or two, they continue their learning, and teachers can easily continue their teaching, because you just move from a face-to-face world to an online one. You and I, this morning, I had the choice of coming in and doing this interview in the library or doing it from home by Zoom. Teachers are going to need some in-service. It's not a new technology. It's not a new concept. It allows you to flip your classrooms so students can come in and do work in the classroom. They've done some of the learning ahead of time online. But it needs to be a concerted effort. We need to say we are going to have a blended classroom environment in every classroom in Pembina Hills. And what do we need to do to support teachers to make that happen? And the third thing is stability and leadership and collaboration. In my time here, 15 years, we've had 6 superintendents. Many of them have left under a cloud. Some of them, I've seen it 180-degree shift. One superintendent was in favor of partnerships, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. The next superintendent wasn't. One superintendent was in favor of regional offices. The next one wasn't. Any organization, any sports team, any business, you need to have stability and leadership. And I think that, accompanied with collaboration, like I mentioned before, where you've got more voices contributing at the table, might make their job easier. But I think we should, excuse me, have a 5, 10, 15-year plan for things like Vista Virtual and how we want to integrate blended learning into our system and so on, so that we have that kind of stability that promotes growth and makes, really quality educational professionals want to come and work here. I believe we could make Pembina Hills one of the best school divisions in the province. I don't think it is right now. So, food for thought.
What could schools do to help engage youth with our local business community?
Most people probably don't know unless they went to my website or read any of my materials. I was a businessman for most of my life. The first 12 years, I got a Bachelor of Science in 1972, and then I bought my dad's business, which was a jewelry store. I ran that for 14 or 15 years. While I did that, I opened up a bowling alley, had a variety of other ventures. And one of the last things I did was we bought a school in Weyburn, an elementary school that had closed, turned it into a mini mall. And ultimately it ended up being the daycare that was in taking part of the space, ended up taking the whole thing. And so now it's the biggest daycare in Weyburn. So I get business. I've taught entrepreneurship. ADLC had a fantastic program, and again, stability and leadership. We were working with one of the top software developers in the world, Go Robos out of Calgary, and a guy named Michael Sikorsky, and developed an app, a game that taught entrepreneurship. Ran on the iPad. It was called a Lemonade Stand. It's fantastic, world class. I got phoned for a paper interview from London, England, but it required more support than the board administration was willing to give it, unfortunately. I think there's lots of things that we can do locally. Work experience is one. When I was in Wolseley, again, we had the whole school was involved in work experience. The grade 10s was Wednesday morning, and the grade 12s was Friday morning. And kids went out and they worked in the community. I think the work experience program could probably be expanded. Again, it's going to require resources. I think Cole does a great job now, but I think, it's like anything, you've got to put some resources behind it. It can be tied in with dual credit, which is a fantastic way for students to earn post-secondary and high school credits. There are lots of really good games. I ran a program called Youth Business Institute when I was in Wolseley, and it was a game. It was run out of Winnipeg. It was fantastic, but it allowed students to see how some of the things like marketing and inventory and all this comes together in competition with other businesses. And I think there's a lot of potential with the Junior Chamber of Commerce, where they exist, where they are run effectively. They create job opportunities, volunteer opportunities, training for students, internships, mentorships, all of those kinds of things. Now, is it up to the business community to reach out to us or us to them? I think in this case, we have a lot to gain for our students. So I would say the first handout should come from us to the business community and ideally the Chamber of Commerce. So, whether or not you run some kind of experience program in the school, great idea, but it has limits. Or look to run a more robust program in the community. I think it's a great experience because a lot of the students we have in the school are going to be small businessmen or women. They're going to run something out of their house, their home. It's going to be attached to a farm, which is, you could argue whether it's small business or big business, but it's business. So I think it's a great idea.
Is there one point you would like to make that hasn't already been discussed?
Yeah, I guess elephant in the room, if you like, was the closure of ADLC. I felt that it was a bit disingenuous on part of the board to not say, hey, we made a mistake. Yes, the provincial government made the ultimate decision, but we have known since 2013 there were issues where the government wasn't happy with us. We knew back then we were in a fight, and Cam Olton, who was our director, and Ralph Helder, they fought by mobilizing the school divisions. And the school divisions wrote letters and got behind us. And we had copyright for a lot of our courses. Again, the importance of course design. And we fought it off. But for the last 4 years, basically, we were trying to close the barn door after the horse was already out. And I think anybody that believes that ADLC had to close doesn't really know the issues. Were there things we could have done that would have guaranteed it stayed open? No. But there was an awful lot of things we could have done that we didn't do. We could have kept our regional offices. I was a learning network liaison, so I was dealing with 10 school divisions south of the Trans-Canada Highway basically on a daily basis. There were other learning coordinators. We basically were making 100 to 150 touches to individual school divisions every week. And we lost the ability to garner their support. And ultimately, the letter that came from the school divisions that we didn't get a chance to speak to was what sunk us, I think, more than anything. And again, I've said, people that know me will have heard me say this many times. When they write the book on ADLC and ultimately the school board and our division, there's going to be a big chapter on missed opportunities. And one of the things that I think ADLC, I can't speak for the division as a whole, but ADLC, one of the problems that they've had, in my opinion, is that they don't get enough people to the table with a voice to provide ideas. So my observation was, when we were having all this conflict with Alberta Ed, none of the guys that had experience were called in. They didn't call in Frank McCallum. They didn't call in Cam Alton. There wasn't any kind of a brain sharing, brainstorming of ideas on how we could have maybe gone about this differently. We would have had to start a long time ago, like at least 3 years ago, if not in 2013. So I found that really frustrating. So in terms of leadership, I think collaboration, real meaningful collaboration, say, all right, we've got an issue. Who knows something about it? Who's had some experience about it? Can we call them in? Can we get them together? Can we have a think tank kind of thing? It doesn't mean you have to take any of the suggestions, but at least you have to listen. And I think if I'm elected, I hope that people see and believe that I listen.
Thank you again for participating in this format. Before letting you go, do you have any closing remarks?
I've been out campaigning hard here for the last 2 or 3 months, trying to get people to know me, know a little bit about me, what I would stand for. I'm passionate about education. I'm passionate about kids. I speak my mind. I work hard. And if elected, that's what you're going to get. Somebody who cares, somebody who listens, somebody who believes, somebody who can have a vision, be creative, and cares very much for the students and families in this school division. So I hope I can get your support on October 18th. Thanks very much.